For more on Kobe Bryant's diagnosis and prognosis, Dr. Phil McDonald joins us. He's a board-certified physician from Duke University specializing in sports medicine, radiology, and our NBA TV medical analyst. Thanks for joining us, Doctor. The Lakers confirmed Bryant's injury is a complete tear of the Achilles. They suggested a 6 to 9 month recovery time before he can return to the floor. What factor will be most influential in his recovery?
Hey, how you doing, Matt? Thanks for having me on the show. The number one thing about coming back from the Achilles tendon is age, as well as, in terms of the specifics of it, it would also be the rehab. And with the rehab, the most important thing is the muscle, the gastrocnemius, which is the calf muscle. It's important that this muscle is strengthened. The only factor that I actually see Kobe having is in terms of, with the knee injuries, his rehab may be a little bit difficult, but I think that's something he can get around. Let me just start by saying, you can't ever count out the heart of a champion, even at 34. And this is just another challenge in his career that he won't be backing down from. I think, that somebody he should emulate is Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins had this injury around age 32, and he was able to come back the next year in about 10 months and was able to average 29.9 points a game. And I think that's mostly due because he adjusted his game. Because hearing Rick Fox talk about, Dominique, how he played when he was with the Celtics, it was pretty evident that he had to adjust his game, and he wasn't necessarily playing above the rim. That being said, I think Kobe Bryant definitely has those factors when it comes to high basketball IQ, the skill set, as well as, the mastery of the fundamentals. And something that you can't teach is heart. And I think, Kobe definitely has all those factors. So I think he will be coming back around anywhere from November to right before All-Star break or right after All-Star break. And I think he will still be dominant if he adjusts his skill set and if, they surround him with players that can help him do what he needs to do.
In terms of his recovery, what's the significance of the diagnosis being a complete tear of the Achilles tendon as opposed to a partial tear?
Well, a complete tear, I don't really think there's an issue in terms of that. I think that they would still do surgery regardless, and I think at this point, it's better sometimes that you do completely rupture it because it just slows up the process, whether, you're saying whether it can heal. It's kind of like with Danny Granger where he had the tendinosis of the patellar tendon, and they wanted to give it some time to heal, but it really never did, so he eventually had to get the surgery. So it's better, it's not good that he ruptured it, but it's better that, they get straight to the surgery and he can start his rehab right away.
How much of a factor, if any, is his age in terms of recovery and how quickly he can return?
Age in terms of, I know I heard Isaiah Thomas talking about his injury, and I think, mentally he had checked out, and, he was planning to retire anyway, and that's the same thing with Kobe. He said he'd be retiring in about a year or so. So that said, I think, the mental factor is huge in terms of how much you're going to put into your rehab, but I think, knowing Kobe's heart, I think that guy, he's going to come back. He's going to come back strong, and I think the age factor won't really heavily weigh on it. I know a couple other guys had that injury in their 30s, as I was saying, like Dominique Wilkins, and he was able to recover from it. So I don't really think age will be a huge factor.
And once the surgery and the rehabilitation are complete, is the Achilles essentially reset, or will Kobe Bryant always be vulnerable in that part of his body?
Actually, the good thing about it is it tends to be stronger. That's what they actually said. But the factor, as I said before, is the gastrocnemius muscle, which is the calf muscle. Whether they, with the treatment, how it's evolved over the last 20 years since Dominique has had his injury, they actually get players moving their ankle, the same day or the next day, and that helps out tremendously in making sure you don't have muscle atrophy, which is what Isaiah Thomas was talking about. When you have muscle atrophy, that means that the muscle loses its normal size and it starts to become fatty infiltrated, so it's not as strong. So I think, with your question being, how will he recover from that, I think, the muscle is the number one thing, and I think relatively in terms of medically speaking, I think he's pretty much young in terms of that, as far as that goes. So I think the muscle won't be an issue for him, with the people that he's surrounded by. I'm sure they will concentrate on that and make sure that that's not an issue.
Dr. Phil McDonald, we appreciate your perspective and your insight on Kobe Bryant's injury. Thanks so much.
Anytime, Matt. Thanks.